Hello, everybody, and happy Saturday. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday afternoon, or if you're watching this recorded, thanks for taking time whenever you're watching it to join me. I'm here to answer all of your questions. So if you have questions and you're watching live, then now is the time to start putting in your questions. I'll remind you multiple times to put in questions live. If you are watching recorded, I've got a bunch of questions that people have sent in ahead of time, and I'll be going through those as well. If you are watching recorded, you can put in questions into the chat in whatever platform that you're watching on, and I will be able to answer those for you when I am notified. So we're going to kick it off right now and just give you a brief overview of the California Dream for All program, what I've seen so far. We've got our first question. Nope, not a first question, just a hi. Hi, thanks for joining. So guys, put comments. It's going to be interactive. If you want to say hi, say hi. We got this streamed across a webinar as well as 6 other platforms. So you're going to see people popping in from different platforms. That's okay. The point today is to really give you the opportunity to get a deep dive into what is the program, how does it work, is it right for me? And I really want to be able to give you all of that information so that you can know how to move forward, because we have 16 days left to get you into this lottery. And so we got to start by figuring out, is this lottery right for you? How does it work? Should I be doing it or not? All of those things I'm going to cover with you in the next hour. So as I see more people popping on, just want to let you know this is all about questions. So send me your questions. You put them into chat, whatever platform you're watching on. And if you're watching recorded, I'll catch them later. All right. So let's start with, what is the program? The program is a state-funded down payment assistance program that is provided for people who are first-time home buyers. First-time home buyer means that you have not lived in a home owned by you or your spouse anytime in the last 3 years. Everybody has to be a first-time home buyer. You have to be a first-generation home buyer, which means that one person has to be first generation. There's going to be a lot of questions about first generation. I've got some in my Q&A. I'm sure you guys will ask them. So if you are a first-generation home buyer, one person on the application must be first generation. That means 2 things. It means that person cannot have had their name on anything mortgage related for 7 years. But before that, it's okay. And it can't have their name on anything housing related for 7 years. Before that, it's okay. And that person's parents must not own a home today if they're alive, or if either or both of the parents are deceased, they cannot have owned a home on the day that they passed away. That's the rule. Now, there is an exception. If you spent any time in foster care or institutional care, then we don't care about your parents' home ownership status. That is first generation. How much do we get? You get 20% of your purchase price up to $150,000. So if you buy a $300,000 home, you get $60,000 in assistance loan. Loan is the key word. It's not free money. If you buy $1 million home, you don't get $200,000. You don't get 20% of that. You get up to $150,000. All right. So we've already got a couple of questions. So let's dive into the questions, because I want to cover your guys' questions first and foremost. I have a list of questions. If you guys don't have them, I'll go back to my list of questions. Okay. So Gerardo, thank you for joining us, Gerardo. So he says, are the closing costs the same for everyone regardless of credit score? Yes, they are. Now, the closing costs are more expensive on this loan program than your typical purchase because of a couple of reasons. Number one, banks get paid in 2 ways. We get paid through upfront fee, and we get paid through part of the interest over the life of the loan. But the bank doesn't make the money on the life of the loan in the Dream for All program. That money goes to the state. So therefore, banks are charging higher upfront fees. You can charge up to 3% in upfront fees from the bank side, and then you have a whole bunch of other fees. So the bank does determine, who you use does determine what your fees are. I've seen most lenders, their upfront cost, the lowest I've really seen is 1.5%. On average, it's 1.75 to 2.25% of fees that the lender controls. Now, I've made the determination within my group that we have a tiered structure. So we normally charge 2% in an origination fee, which is right in the middle. I don't try to be the cheapest. I believe I'm the best, and I don't want to be the cheapest. But I think I'm competitive. More importantly, I don't believe I need to make twice as much money on $1 million loan as I do on a $500,000 loan. So I have it tiered that way. So if you're under $600,000, you're paying 2% of the loan amount in origination fee. If you're over $1 million, you're paying only 1%, and it's tiered in between. So George, for me, the fees do depend on your loan size, only because our normal is 2%, but we make it cheaper as the loan amount gets bigger. And then the second thing that you asked, which you directly asked, does it matter based on your credit score? The answer is no. Everybody pays the same fees as long as you meet the minimum credit score. The minimum credit score is going to be 680 if you're regular income for most people. But if you're considered low income for the county you're buying in, you can get away with a 660 credit score. All right. Love it. More questions coming in. Keep the questions coming in. I will answer all of your questions, and then I'll get to mine if I have time. So Nayli asks, Nayli, I think so. How is it possible not to disclose the income for the co-borrower? We leave it blank. Like, there's no law that says we have to disclose income. It is, it's not fraud. It's not anything. Like, it's you choose to get me documentation of income. And if you don't choose to give me the documentation, then I can't count it. And if I can't count it because I don't have the documentation, then it doesn't exist. Now, where this is coming from is, let's pretend I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who they were saying, John, I make $130,000. My wife makes $200,000. We're trying to buy in Sacramento County, and the income limit in Sacramento County is $190,000. Okay, then we have two choices. First of all, three. We could put you and your wife on there with both of your incomes. You don't qualify. So that's not really an option. Making $320,000 not an option. So we can't put your wife on here with just her income because her income's too high. So we can only use your income. The question is, do we put the loan just in your name without your wife on the loan at all, which means she can't be on the ownership of the property? That's not a good idea. Or we put her name on the loan, but we have to we leave her income blank because we're not disclosing it. You're not proving it to me. We do still have to count her credit score. As long as it meets the minimum, we're fine. I still have to count her debts. So if the wife had a lot of debts, we'd have to leave the wife off of the loan, which also means she can't be on ownership. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, follow-up questions, feel free to ask them. All right. So Zulifaya, I know we've been talking back and forth in email, but I honestly don't know how to pronounce your name, and I apologize. So you got my pre-approval letter. Thank you very much. You have a practical concern. You are approved for home price in $350,000, which is not realistic in Santa Clara County, where I live and work. Could you clarify how this pre-approval would apply if we were to consider relocation to a more affordable area? Would my income need to be reevaluated based on the new location and employment there? That is a beautiful question. So here's what I'm going to be clear. I'm not going to talk about your personal information. How I'm going to answer this is going to be a generic statement, because obviously it wouldn't be appropriate for me to disclose information about your personal income and credit details. So generally speaking, here's how this applies. I'm going to get rid of the question here. So first of all, our number one focus is to get you a pre-approval letter regardless of the purchase price you have on there. Why? Because the pre-approval letter, so let me actually switch this thing back here and just say, send me your questions while I answer her question. So the pre-approval letter is your ticket to get into the lottery. That's it. It doesn't matter what price it's at. For some people, they've said, John, I have more income, but I can't count it yet. Maybe you're self-employed and you haven't filed your taxes yet, and you want to have more tax profit if you qualify for the voucher and less tax profit if you don't. Great. Then I'm just going to get you a pre-approval based on what you qualify for now. And then later, if we file your taxes with a higher amount of profit, you can increase that amount. The key here is no matter what is listed on your pre-approval letter, no matter what is listed on your pre-approval letter, you can increase that later if your income and debts allow you to. Now, to speak specifically to her question, it was about relocating. So again, I'm going to speak to it generically because it really has nothing to do with your amount you're qualified for in your current market. current county, there's lots of people who want to relocate for lots of different reasons. So I'm going to answer your question directly, but I'm going to answer it more from that perspective. If you want to buy in a county that is not where you live now, no problem. As a matter of fact, even if you're buying in the county you live now, but you're buying in not in the city or region you're living in, the key is we always look at the time that we are approving your loan once you're in contract for what is the driving distance between your home you're buying and the job that you currently have. If it is longer than a reasonable commute, the reasonable commute part is really up to interpretation. But if it's longer than a reasonable commute, then we say, hey, we don't believe you're going to drive that every single day. Now, you might be a remote worker and you say, I can work from anywhere. Perfect. Then your employer gives us a letter that says you're a remote worker and we are fine. But it might be that you're saying what the question was just now, which is, what if I relocate to a different area? What if I'm trying to buy in a county that has less expensive homes? You can do that. The first question is, are you planning on keeping your current job? And if so, is that a reasonable commute? If it's not, then you need to get a new job in the new region before we can approve you, before we can get you into contract. Now, you don't have to start the new job. You have to have a non-contingent offer letter. So if you have someone, let's say you're in Santa Clara County, you only qualify for $350, you find, hey, I want to buy a house in Merced, and I can find a home in Merced at the price that I want to purchase. Great. But now you got to find a job in Merced. You go, yeah, but John, I don't want to quit my job here until I have the house in Merced. Find a job in Merced that gives you a offer letter that says, hey, you're going to start 60 days from now, 90 days from now. They're willing to do that. That's the ideal situation. Sometimes you need to move there and rent because you can't find the home in time. Like there's a lot of moving parts here, but yes, we're going to pre-approve you based on the income at the new location, because it's not a reasonable commute. So I won't be able to use the income from your job in Santa Clara if you're living in Merced. So hopefully that makes sense. I put a lot of pieces into there. All right. So Gerardo asks a great question. God, I love these questions, guys. Keep the questions coming in. So he says, are interest rates likely to decrease from 6% by the time the lottery takes place? Great question. Wrong question. You don't care what the interest rate is today. You don't care what the interest rate is when the lottery takes place. You don't care what the interest rate is when you get a voucher. You care what the interest rate is the day you get an offer accepted on a home within the window of your voucher period. Okay, so rates are not locked in until you get an offer accepted on a home, and you have to then reserve that home address in CalHFA's system, and that attaches that property to your voucher, and then we can choose when we lock. You don't have to lock that first day, but the truth is now you're gambling. Now you have no idea where rates are going to be better or worse tomorrow. So Gerardo, your question truly is, John, where do you think interest rates are going? And I didn't answer that yet because I'm being clear. It doesn't matter where rates go between now and when the lottery takes place. What you care about is where are interest rates going between now and when you get your voucher, and more importantly, not when you get it, but when you use the voucher by getting into contract on a home. Now, the answer you ask, where do I think rates are going? It's anybody's guess. There's a lot going on economically. There's a lot going on politically. Inflation is a concern that caused interest rates to skyrocket in 2022. It started coming back down because inflation is somewhat under control. Inflation is kind of a concern right now. I will tell you a lot of news in the last 24 hours about trouble in the Middle East. And that creates even more instability when it comes to politics, when it comes to economics. That can drive interest rates one direction or another. So there is a huge tug of war. What I'll tell you is what we're seeing right now is the lowest interest rates we've seen in a few years. Okay. Normally, when we hit that level, we bounce off of it because the market, and I don't want to get too technical, but the market, when you've got an average of interest rate being no lower than this and no higher than this, so you have an average right in the middle. It's called reversion to the mean, which means that as you go up above the average, the market conditions want to pull it back to the average, wants to make rates go down. When we're at the bottom of the average, market conditions want to make it come back up. So the pressure right now is for rates to go back up. But that's how you break out of that average. is there's some major political or economic, socioeconomic conditions that will impact that shift. And we got a lot of conditions happening right now. Generally speaking, the instability that comes from, I don't know, I think I saw something that says that war was declared. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff. What I'll say is the instability that comes from, I don't know a more politically correct way of saying it, of what's happening in the Middle East generally leads to interest rates coming down. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to come down, but as a general statement, it does lead to interest rates coming down because people are worried about market conditions and what that's all going to mean, and they pull money out of the market, and they put money into the bond, they pull money out of the stock market, put money into the bond market, and that causes bond rates to go down, and mortgages are a bond. So pretty technical, don't want to get much more technical. Wonderful question, and hopefully that made perfect sense. All right, guys, no more live questions, so I'm going to jump to my prepared questions, but please jump in and ask me a question if you have any, and I will continue to answer your questions. So we talked about how much money do you get. Let's talk about when do I pay it back. So you pay it back one of 3 times, and it's really confusing because most people only think of it two times. So the first time you pay it back is when you sell the house. Okay, when you sell the house, you're paying it back, and you're paying back the amount you got from the state plus a percentage of your appreciation. The percentage equals the percentage the state invested in your home. If you buy anything under $750,000, the state is investing 20%, which means that they're getting back their original money plus 20% of how much your home price has gone up. If you bought $1 million home, the state's $150,000 represents 15%, which means you're paying back the original loan of $150,000 plus 15% of how much the value has gone up since you bought it. So that's the first time that you have to sell it. The first scenario. The second, not sell it, have to pay it back. First scenario you have to pay it back is when you sell the home. By the way, sale includes transfer of ownership. Doesn't have to be a true sale. If you say, I want to add my sister to the ownership, I want to add my kids to the ownership in case something happens, I want to transfer the ownership and put somebody else on title, that is considered a sale, and CalHFA says you owe us back the money immediately. Okay, so sale is the first scenario you owe back the money. Refinancing is the second scenario, but the state says we'll let you refinance once without having to pay us back as long as you are only refinancing to lower your interest rate and you're not trying to pull any cash out. The third scenario that everybody forgets, when you finish paying off the big loan in 30 years. So many people have said, John, I don't plan on ever selling this house. I don't plan on ever refinancing, so I don't have to worry about paying back the state. Hear me. The state will always get their money, always get their money. This is not a grant. There is no forgiveness. It will never go away. The state will always get their money. So you're always going to get 80% of what the home price goes up until you pay off the states. But 80% of something is way better than 100% of nothing. All right, so that covers when do I pay it back. I'm getting a lot of questions about education, home buyer education. There are 2 types of education that must be completed within a year prior to you getting your keys. So it has to do with when do you get your keys. I want you to remember that date. But within 1 year of when you get your keys is when you have to complete the education. You do not have to complete it to get into the lottery. Lots of people are saying, John, I'm trying to do the education. It's not going to be ready for a week or 2. I don't know what I'm going to do because I won't have it in time for the lottery. You don't need to do any education now. Let me explain the 2 types of education. One of them is free, and it's simply about the Dream for All program and how it works. So that's a good one. It's very similar to what I'm talking about here. It's great. It's free. You can do it. I don't know, it's an hour, half hour, whatever. And it's all online. Very good for knowledge, but it is not necessary. And it costs you nothing. It's free, but it isn't necessary in order to get into the lottery. The second one costs money. It costs $100. It's an 8-hour course. You do 7 of the hours online, and then you get on with a counselor for a live session where you're talking with a counselor. Don't do that one, okay? Don't do it. It is only good for a year. You're spending $100 on it. Do it once you have a voucher. If you don't have a voucher, you're never going to need to do it unless you use a different down payment assistance program. So when should you do the education? Later. You should do the education once you get a voucher because you have 90 days to find a home, and then you can request an extension for 90 more days to continue looking for a home. So you have a total of 180 days to find a home. Well, that education's good for a year. So when you get a voucher, that's when you do the education, not before, because there are people who got into the lottery. The last time we had a lottery was in 2024, April of 2024. The results were announced in June. So it took 2 months for them to give us the results. That's another question I think I have in a couple minutes, but I'll get it out of the way now. It took them 2 months to get us the results of who was picked, who was selected, okay? Within that timeline, some people got selected, some people got on the waiting list, and some people were not selected. Over the next year and a half, coincidentally, everybody on the waiting list got a voucher. Everybody. Okay, I got a question. I'll get to that in a second. You guys, you're watching live, post as many questions as you have. Everybody on the waiting list got a voucher. Some of them didn't get a voucher until August, a year later. So if they had done their education back in April when the lottery was happening, it would have expired April of 2025. They got their voucher in April of 2020. They got the voucher in August of 2025. I have one person left in contract who got into escrow before the deadline, the 180th day. We're closing his transaction next week. He is my last one finishing out the 2024 money. He's almost 2 years after the original conversation that he had in getting into the lottery, and he's now using it. So thankfully, he didn't do the education the first time, and I don't want you to do it now either. Ooh, I got 2 questions. Keep coming. All right, so 3. Looks like it's all the same person, though. All right, so Brock Rogers, thanks for all the information. A couple of questions. I am ready for you, Brock. All right, first one, I understand you can only put 5% of our down payment towards the house. Can I make extra payments to pay off the mortgage earlier? Yes, there is no prepayment penalty. You can pay extra to pay off the mortgage earlier. And so, yeah, he's just clarifying here, 5% of our own money. So you are 100% correct. I'll actually show you guys really quickly. If you don't already have it, you'll want to get my my Dream for All calculator. So I'm going to share with you my Dream for All calculator. So first of all, this QR code that's up there, up there, or the link up above is going to take you right to this page, CaliforniaDreamForAll.info. You are going to, right up here on the top of the page, you're going to see a link for calculator. We're going to click on that link, and it's going to take you to my Dream for All calculator. Once you sign in and create an account in here, you will be able, and I'm going to actually go into my version directly. So this is the front door in. All right. So actually, let's do it this way. Hold on 1 second, because I want to use a different dummy account. So let's sign in and let's go with this one. Perfect. All right. So my calculator shows you your scenarios. You're going to plug in here and you're going to say, hey, what's my info? How much do I make? How much do I have in debts? You're going to put all this information into my calculator, and then it will give you a result. And to Brock's point, he's asking, and I'm going to get rid of your question here. To Brock's point, he's asking about, can I only put an extra 5% down? And I want to demonstrate what that looks like. And then I'll continue answering the question he really asked. So right here, what you're seeing, this is based on a $1 million purchase price. So on a $1 million purchase price, you can still put next to nothing out of pocket, or you can put 5% down plus your closing costs. I budget closing costs at 4% of the purchase price. It's a safe number for budgeting. Now, if you want to have 0 down or the least amount of money out of pocket, then you have to pay mortgage insurance. And you can pay mortgage insurance as a monthly fee or as a one-time fee. I project it as a one-time fee just to keep it simple. And that makes your closing cost between 4.5% and 5%. So I round up and call it 5%. So when you're putting 0 out of pocket or lowest money in cash to close, you're financing about 5% of the purchase price and closing costs. If you want your maximum out of pocket, the 5% down plus closing costs, you're looking at about 9% of the purchase price out of pocket. Okay, so that's what you're looking at as a total out of pocket. Now, Brock's question was, can I, let's go here, can I make extra payments? You can. Never make extra payments towards the $150,000. towards that 20% loan. It doesn't help you. It doesn't save you any money. It doesn't make it cheaper down the road. You're literally putting the money under a rock and it's not doing anything for you. Paying down on the principal is a fine idea, but it's not my favorite. What I'll tell you is if you have extra money, I believe, and you got to be careful, this is an alternative thinking. I'm not telling you it's the right choice. It's an alternative thinking. But I believe that you should consider putting the money into an investment, so the money itself grows. Because right now you're paying 6% interest on your mortgage, which is tax deductible. So a portion of that you actually save on income taxes. So maybe it's only 4.5% technical interest. If you talk to an investment advisor and say, hey, what do you think about whether I should take this extra money and pay it down on my mortgage, or if I should invest it? And they'll give you an idea of what you can earn on that investment. Here's why I think that's something worth considering. Because the value of the home is going to go up no matter what. No matter what. Whether you pay down that mortgage or not, the value of the home is going up. So the only thing you're saving is the cost of the interest, and the money is now sunk. You can't grab it again unless you refinance. If something happens and you get in a pickle and you're like, John, I put every extra penny I have towards paying down my mortgage, and now I've got some financial problems and I've run up all my credit cards, and what should I do? Well, the problem is you kind of backed yourself into a corner. If you invest the money, that money is going to grow as well, and your mortgage value, the value of the home, is going to increase. So you're going to build wealth through two buckets of money instead of just one. And you can withdraw from the investment account just like that. You can't withdraw from your mortgage unless you're refinancing, and that costs money. You can only do it once. You can't pull cash out when you do it. So I'm not a huge fan, especially on the Dream for All, because you're limited on how much you can refinance. I'm not a huge fan of paying extra. I'm a huge fan of putting that into a separate savings account, even a high yield savings account that pays you 5%. I don't know if those exist at that rate anymore, but my point is there are lots of investments that will pay you 5% or more. Yes, they come with some risk, but you're taking a risk anyway with where you put your money and where the smartest place is. By putting it into your mortgage, you risk that you don't need that money again later, and that could cost you a lot in the long run. And so this is more advanced financial advice, but I want to help you not just get this home today, but to plan for wealth building in the future. I'm not going to be your lender just for today. I'm not your lender just for the Dream for All program. So I'm going to cover my paid political announcement. I am interviewing to be your job. I'm interviewing to be your lender, no matter what type of loan that you're doing. We found each other because of Dream for All. I'm going to take great care of you on Dream for All. But if you don't get selected, if you decide I don't like what you're saying today, John, about the program and how I have to share my appreciation with them, great. Let's look at alternative programs. Let's find another way to get it done. I can do pretty much any loan program out there, and I am interviewing for being your lender today, tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now. I will be here, and I want to be your person, and I want to be the person you trust to refer all of your friends and family to. All right, let's go back to my questions because I have no more questions. Brock Rogers, you said you got a couple of questions, but it looks like there was only one. So if you have more, or if they were kind of embedded in there, you're good. But if you have more, then please let me know. Anybody else? I'm getting more and more people coming on board on different platforms. If you have more questions, post it. This is all about your Q&A, but I'm covering the questions that I have as well, just in case you guys don't have any. All right, my next thing, what are the credit score requirements? This is a big one. We're coming across a lot of people who were saying, John, I didn't know that I had to meet a certain credit score. We got a lot of people who have done the application. We've done the soft credit check. And then they're saying, John, my credit's 500. I didn't think that mattered. It matters. Everybody on the loan must meet the minimum credit score. Not one person, everybody. So if one person that you want on the loan doesn't meet the minimum credit score, they can't be on the loan unless their credit goes up by the time that you get your voucher. So we can add people to the loan later. It's not a big deal. You can delete people off the loan later. It's not a big deal, as long as at least one person remaining is a first-generation home buyer. So watch my video I did last Tuesday about how to enter your information into the CalHFA portal. That is done after you have the pre-approval letter from me, which is done after you have given me your credit authorization to pull credit. There's a cost up front for the soft credit check, so you've paid that. There is you've got to get your application completed, and we have to get your documentation of your income. Once we get all that, Then we issue a pre-approval letter. Then you go into CalHFA's portal and you register. That's how you get into the lottery. But when you're registering, make sure you select every person who is potentially first generation, mark them as yes for first generation. Because that way, if you need to play Tetris and move one person off of the loan, you always have to have at least one person remaining on the loan that is first generation. That's the critical piece. All right, so everybody on the loan needs to have the minimum credit. It is 680 is the minimum credit unless you are under the low income limit. So it's 80% of the area median income. I have the numbers on my calculator. You can go to FAQs. You can see what the 80% low income limit is. And if you are falling under low income, you get a couple of benefits. You only need a 660 credit score. You pay back less to the state. You only pay back 75 cents on the dollar. So instead of paying back 20% appreciation, you're paying back 15% appreciation. So there are some benefits, but low income, you have a harder time qualifying for for reasonable prices within the community that you're living in. So there's the catch-22. All right, so those are the credit score requirements. I actually kind of just answered my next question, but I want to be really clear. When you go, and I'm actually going to share my screen again, and we're going to go here. We're going to go to CalHFA. A lot of you found me this way already. Some of you have not, and some of you don't have a loan officer yet. I'm your loan officer, so don't go on here and find a loan officer, okay? Just want to be clear. If you're listening to me, you don't have a loan officer yet, you have one, it's me. Scan the QR code up top. It's going to give you all the instructions. You're going to click, by the way, when you scan here, you want to get started. The number one thing you need to do, we have 2 weeks left, is click Apply Now. Click Apply Now right up here in the top corner. Get the process started. Submit your application, submit your income documents, pay for the soft credit. We will get everything done for you. But here, if you went here and you found me through here and you're saying, hey, I want to get a referral to one of CalHFA's preferred loan officers. So I'm going to fill out the quick eligibility check. And you're going to jump right in here. And it's going to ask you questions. What's your name? Will you be living in the home? Are you purchasing a single family home? What county are you looking to buy in? What county are you looking to buy in? What's your estimated total income? All of these questions, when you fill out, that is not your loan application. So many people have said, John, I filled out my loan application. What's next? And I'm like, I don't have one. And I realized they filled this out. This is not your loan application. This is a qualification questionnaire. So that CalHFA can say, hey, you're not eligible for Dream for All. Do you want to look at something else? We can connect you to a preferred loan officer, but you're not eligible for that program. So be very, very careful of what you believe is your pre-approval your loan application for pre-approval. This is not it. This was just a screening process. Okay, now let's go back. I've got 2 questions. All right. Anahit says, what if one person is on permanent residency and just started to build credit and so no history? Okay. So this is where we have to walk a fine line. What I'll tell you is if you have a credit score not a credit score. If you have a social security number and you have valid work authorization, and there's lots of different visa types and work authorization types, or you're a permanent resident, so that isn't even an issue because you have a permanent residency card. But talking about immigration, we first have to make sure you have valid immigration. There are some situations where it's not considered a valid immigration status for lending. But as long as you have a valid immigration status, even if you're non-permanent, you can still proceed. Now we have to make sure you have a social security number. Now we have to make sure you have credit. Now, if you just started building credit and I can see that your credit is being built, one of the tricks, by the way, to add in credit is get yourself added as an authorized user on top of creating your own account. So find a spouse, a brother, sister, a family member who can add you to their existing credit cards as an authorized user. Do not only do that, but that helps bulk up the new accounts that you're building on your own. But yes, I have given vouchers to people who have a person on the loan who's just starting to build credit, and I can see that in the next 4 months, they're going to have a credit score and it looks great. You're not going to have a voucher for at least 2 or 3 months. And even if you do, you have 6 months to use it. And I can see a clear path that we're going to get there. You can have a ticket. Okay. Now, there's lots of nuances there. So I'm not telling you you're going to get a ticket if you have a 500 credit score and you're like, but John, I can make it higher. I don't see a reasonable path for you to do that. I can't give you a ticket. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, next question. How does the amount you're borrowing work when doing taxes? Do you claim this as income on tax returns? Okay, there are lots of questions in there, the one you asked and then the ones that you didn't ask. So this is not income. The Dream for All loan is it's always going to get paid back. So it's not income to you. You will always pay back the state the money that they loaned you. So therefore, it's not considered income. You are not claiming this on your tax returns at all. Now, that's the direct answer to your question. What your question implies is actually a lot of other things that people might be thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about tax returns. So the first thing, most of you don't need to give me tax returns unless you are self-employed. I don't need your tax returns. So I look at your income and I don't look at what it says on your tax returns. I don't even look at what it said last year's W-2. That's part of the equation, but that's not the answer. Many people 2 years ago, even people this year, have called me and said, John, don't bother. I make too much money. What do you mean you make too much money? Let's talk about it. And once we talk about it, they were looking at last year's AGI, adjustable gross income, but that included other things that don't count. And sometimes it doesn't include everything that does count. So don't look at your taxes. Don't even look exactly at your W-2. We have different ways of looking at it that may be higher or lower. And sometimes I'm stuck and I can't be creative, but a lot of times I can be creative. But more importantly, if you are self-employed, stop and listen to me. If there's nothing else you hear today, if you are self-employed, don't file your 2025 taxes. Do not file your 2025 taxes. Give me your 2024 and your 2023. I will take a look at it. We can project what your 2025s could look like, but you might have to file higher profits in order to get the price that you want. Don't file those taxes. As a matter of fact, the client that I am in escrow with right now, my last Dream for All client from 2024's money, this client didn't file his taxes in April of 2025 because he was still on the waiting list. He was hoping to get a voucher. He got his voucher in August. I worked with him in October to file his taxes to get it exactly to the limit in the county that he was buying at so he could maximize his buying power. He filed the taxes on October 14th, the day before the deadline to complete your taxes. And now we're using that amount of profit to qualify him for the mortgage today. Had he filed them April of last year and just said, forget it, I'm just going to file them with whatever they got, he wouldn't qualify for the mortgage. So if you are self-employed, do not file your taxes right away. As a matter of fact, don't file them until we find out if you got a voucher or not. Even if it means that your pre-approval letter right now is a lot lower than you want it to be, don't sweat it. As I said earlier on this live stream, if you have a pre-approval letter for less than what you want to buy, don't worry. It just gets you into the lottery. And then it matters how much money we can document once you have a ticket in your hand. All right. Brock says, will a parent applying for an appreciation loan affect my ability? Okay, eligibility. All right. So this one's, well, I'll tell you exactly what CalHFA said, because they said everybody's confused about the whole, do my parents own a home? The answer is, do my parents own a home right now? And she kind of jokingly and kind of sarcastically said, right now means right now. Like right now, do they own a home right now? Well, it is more of a nuanced question because sure, they don't own a home right now when you submit it for the lottery. But what about when the lottery voucher is pulled, if they own a home then? So here's what I'll tell you. Once the lottery voucher once the vouchers have been issued, they are no longer doing the background checks. Okay, so hear me. When the portal ends on March 16th at 5 p.m., that's when the state starts doing background checks on everybody to confirm, are your parents actually not owning a home today, or did they not own a home the day that they passed away? That's the only time they're verifying it. So we are not re-verifying again afterwards. So to answer your question, Brock, if your parents don't own a home and they're a first-time home buyer, so clearly they don't own a home and they're going into the lottery as well, and you go into the lottery and then they buy a home the day before you buy a home. Well, then the day you buy a home, your parents own a home, but nobody's checking anymore because CalHFA's exact rules are now. Do your parents own a home now? Well, I think we can use that against them. And the truth is, nobody's looking anymore. I'm not going to ask you if your parents own a home now. I'm not, There's no certification I have to provide that says I verified your parents don't own a home, because there isn't a way for me to prove it. That's why they hired the private investigators, because it's impossible to prove a negative. It's like, prove to me, if you are a single person that's never been married, prove it to me. You can't. There is no piece of paper that says proof of singlenesshood. It's not even a word, okay? But there's no piece of paper. You've got a marriage license, you've got a divorce decree, but there's no piece of paper that says I'm single and have never been married. So the state, there's no piece of paper that says your parents don't own a home today. There's no piece of paper. So that's why they're hiring the private investigators to do the research. It took them 2 months to do the research back in 2024, which is why it took them until June, because the lottery closed April 28th. It was June 29th that they gave the vouchers out. It took them 2 months to do it. Once they've done that, and Brock agrees, he sees the answer. You're welcome, Brock. So once they've done that, your background check part is over. Now, we will check to make sure you're still a first-time home buyer. We will check again to make sure that you personally haven't owned anything in the last 7 years, because we see that on your credit report. I see on your credit report and your address history where you've lived. So I will double check that. But there's nothing I'm doing as your lender, because I'm your lender. If you're on this call, you are forced to be using me. Just kidding, not really, okay? As your lender, I'm not asking those questions. I'm not looking. There's no box I have to check. All right, more questions. I love it. I'm happiest when I get live questions. All right, if I'm pre-qualified for a mortgage, does that approval apply anywhere, or can it change depending upon the county? Beautiful question. I love it. I love it. I love it. Again, I take your question and then I split it up into multiple questions. So first of all, you have to meet the income limits for the county you're buying in. Now, Los Angeles Basin is the best example of this, because you've got LA County that has lower income limits. You've got Ventura County that has higher income limits. And then you've got Orange County that has even higher income limits. And then you have the Inland Empire that has lower income limits than all of those. And you could reasonably commute to your job in LA County from any of those 5 counties. So the 2 parts to this question have to do with, are you within a reasonable commute distance or not? Let's assume for a second you are. So you work in LA County, you live in LA County, you meet the income limits for LA County, and you got a pre-approval letter. Well, then that means you meet the income limits for Ventura and Orange County, but you might not meet them for the Inland Empire, okay, for San Bernardino and Riverside counties. So you've got to make sure that you're meeting the income limits for the county you're buying in. That's the first part. And then the second part is my income going to be usable where I'm moving to? Now, what makes income usable? Is it can you continue doing this job? Is it a reasonable commute to this job? If you are remote, then we just have to prove that you're remote. I said this earlier. If it's not a reasonable commute, then you have to find a new job. So that's the challenge. But the other piece that is way beyond what you asked is you're actually not pre-approved for a loan amount. You're pre-approved for a monthly payment. And that monthly payment is based upon what your income is and what your debts are. Well, your income can change between now and when you get a voucher. Your debts can change between now and when you get a voucher. But that's what determines how much you can spend per month. Now, how much of a price that equals, well, that depends on where interest rates are. That depends on how much you're putting out of pocket, and whether you want the least amount out of pocket, the middle option to pay your closing costs, or the most amount of pocket, which is 5% plus the closing costs. So there's lots of variables here. Yet on the piece of paper I give you, as somebody said earlier, I approve them for $350,000 in Santa Clara County, because that's a dart thrown across a football field in a hurricane. There are so many things that are going to change, and I'm just throwing the dart as hard as I can and as accurately as I can. But there's a lot of variables that are going to change where that dart lands. So the key is to get yourself into the lottery. That's it. Now, again, I don't want you in the lottery thinking, John, this is a horrible idea. I'm never going to use this money. But if you get in the lottery and then you get a voucher and you decide I don't want to use the money, you click a button that says reject my voucher. And then it goes to somebody else on the waiting list. It's no big deal. You are not obligated to use the voucher even if you get it. So there's no harm in getting into the lottery. You're just starting the process now. And if you don't get into the lottery, if you don't get selected, I should say, I have lots of other programs. I have lots of people between 2024 and 2025 that got into the lottery in 2024 and either decided not to use it, very few, or they decided, meaning they got a voucher and they decided they didn't like the plan. There's a couple. but more likely they didn't get a voucher or they were so far down on the waiting list, they decided not to wait it out because they needed to make a move. I've already got calls from 3 clients that are in the lottery right now, and they've said, I don't want to wait. I need to make a move, John. What other options do we have? And I'm an expert in lots of other options with lots of other down payment assistance programs. Okay, so Sophia asks, what about a W-2? We're about to file our taxes. No big deal. So this goes back to the question or the thing I said a few minutes ago. Do not file your 2025 taxes if you're self-employed. If you're a W-2 employee, file away, get your tax refund if you got one coming. No big deal, no need to wait. All right, those are all the questions I have live right now. I'm going to be here for at least another 15 minutes. Worst case, we'll stay until 2:15, but let's see. I'm going to keep going through my questions. All right, I kind of covered this already. When we find out we got the vouchers, we don't know. So we know that it took 60 days to do the background check back in 2024. We don't know if it's going to be longer or shorter this time. We don't know how many people are going to get into the lottery this time and how many they have to validate. And so it could be a shorter amount of time. It could be a longer amount of time. We don't know. What do I do if I don't get a voucher? By the way, if you have questions in your live, post them now because I'll make sure I get to your questions. What do I do if I don't get a voucher? Well, you either don't buy and you wait for the next time. Now, it's been 2 years since the last time. There's no guarantee they're going to do this every year. And clearly we've seen that. The idea was it was going to happen every year, but it depends on whether the state has money available to put towards it. And that's during the state budget that they put out in June that becomes effective July 1st. So we don't know when the next lottery is going to be. And so you can, if you don't get a voucher, you can say, John, I'm only going to buy if I get a Dream for All voucher. Great, then we'll wait. I'll be here for you. You might say, John, maybe I will buy anyway. Show me what my options are and I will help you take care of that. And what I'm doing right now, my team and I are fully focused on getting everybody into the lottery between now and March 16th. Starting March 17th, I'm going to set up calls with every one of you that got into the lottery, and we're going to have a one-on-one consultation. We're going to talk about what the numbers would look like for you. What are your goals? Why are you buying a house? We're going to answer your questions, and we're going to talk about strategy if you don't get selected for a voucher. The other thing I'm going to do is between the time that the portal closes on March 16th and when the lottery results are announced, I'm going to do a lot of live streams educating you about the home buying process. Because every one of you are first-time home buyers. Every one of you, your parents don't own a home today. And for a lot of you, your parents have never owned a home or maybe never in the United States. So you need to learn how the home buying process works. And I'm going to be your guide through all of that. All right. I get this question every once in a while. Can I use Dream for All if my parents own a home? No, because the Dream for All program is first generation only. If your parents own a home right now, you cannot use the Dream for All program. What if I owned a home before? Am I still a first-time home buyer? Yes. So 2 different sets of rules. One is, am I a first-time home buyer? That one, everybody has to meet that rule. And the rule is you have not lived in a home owned by you or your spouse anytime in the last 3 years. It didn't say you can't own a home. I have somebody that I talked to the other day and they said, John, I own a rental property that I bought with my sister. Am I out? Am I not qualified? And I go, no, you're fine as long as you're not the first generation home buyer. Because the first generation home buyer has to do with their parents and their parents not owning, and they themselves cannot have had their name on any property, any mortgage for anything except a manufactured home on rented land. So if you are the only buyer and you own an investment property, you are still a first-time home buyer, but if you didn't live in that property anytime in the last 3 years, but you're not the first generation buyer. And so if you have multiple buyers on your loan and one of them owns a home now as an investment property, no big deal, as long as at least one of the other buyers is the first generation buyer. Okay. Again, guys, ask your questions. I'm keeping going on through mine. Do income limits include my spouse or co-borrower who won't be on the loan? No, they don't. The income limits are only based on what we disclose. Now, I had somebody freak out in 2024 because they said, John, I'm self-employed. And because I'm self-employed, you have to see my taxes. And on my taxes, it sees my spouse's W-2 income. And you're going to see it and we're going to be in trouble. No, we're not. Because taxes alone are not enough to use income. And so if the spouse is a W-2 employee and I don't give the paycheck stubs or the W-2s, I can't count their income, we ignore it. even if your spouse is self-employed. You're like, John, no. My spouse is self-employed. You guys use tax returns to prove self-employment. And my self-employed income says I make $150,000 in profit. My spouse says they make $150,000 in profit. And together that $300,000 is too much. You're right. Except I'm not giving a copy of a business license or proof that the business is still in existence right now. And therefore, if I don't provide that proof, I can't count the income. So to count income, I need lots of things to come together. If any one of those things is missing, I can't count that income. And so if you don't give me all of those things, I don't have them. Therefore, I can't count that income. So this is how I play Tetris in helping you to legally qualify. Can I use Dream for All with a non-occupant co-borrower or co-signer? No. Now, co-borrower and co-signer has to do with, are they on the mortgage or not? But no matter what, every person on the loan must live in the property. Every person on the loan must be on title. Every person on the loan must be a first-time home buyer. Every person on the loan must have good enough good enough credit to meet the minimum credit score requirements. You can't get away from that, or that person cannot be on the loan. All right, next question I have. Can I lose my voucher, and what would cause that? You can. You can lose your voucher because your credit fell below the minimum and you no longer meet the minimum credit score requirements. Now, technically, you still have your voucher, but you can't redeem it because your credit score is too low. So you can't really lose your voucher unless you committed fraud. Unless they find out later that you fraudulently submitted a fraudulent birth certificate or something, I'm sure you could lose your voucher. But you can get a voucher and not be able to use it. Income limits change every year in June. So you get a voucher in May. You start shopping for a home. You're exactly right below the income limit for your county. And then the income limits come out in June, and the income limit dropped for your county. We don't know. They normally go up, but they sometimes can go down. So the income limit dropped for your county, and now you have a voucher you can't use because the income limit matters what was in place the moment I get a reservation, a purchase contract for a home, and I lock your interest rate. That's what freezes in the terms right then. So the income limit that is in place right then is what matters. And so, yeah, you could lose your voucher even though you're qualified today. You could lose your job. And John, you pre-approved me. You knew that I was working. And so why can't I use it now? Because the pre-approval doesn't matter what we did today. It matters that you are also pre-approved and eligible at the time that you get into contract and maintain eligibility at the time that you get the keys to the home. So we have to stay consistently qualified through that whole time. And I unfortunately saw a fair number of people who didn't during 2024. Some of them were circumstances outside of their control. Some of them were, John, I didn't think it mattered because you already had me pre-approved, or another lender had me pre-approved. And some of them just gave up and said, I don't think I'm going to get a voucher. I forget it. I'm just going to buy a car. And they spent $2,000 a month on a car payment. And then they got a voucher and they couldn't use it because their debt went up. And they can't qualify anymore because of their debt to income ratio. All right, another question I get a fair amount. Do I need to already be in contract or have an offer accepted? That was the 2023 version. So that version went away with the lottery. It's why they put the lottery in place. The first time this came out in 2023, it was a free-for-all. And you had to be in contract in order to reserve the money. You had to have an offer accepted in order to reserve the money. The money went away in 11 days. 11 days. Now, it's much easier. You're not rushing to find a home. If you find a home and you get in contract and then you find out through the inspections that it's not going to be a good idea, then you can cancel that contract. They reissue a new voucher as long as you're not outside of the 180 days and you go find a different home. So this is a way, way better process. All right. I've got a question. Gerardo asks, can Dream for All voucher recipients can a Dream for All voucher recipient place the residence in a trust? Yes, you can. But the trust has to be, the trustee, the owners of the trust have to be the borrowers, no more, no less. So everybody who's an owner of the property has to be named in that trust as the trustee and I'm not using the legal terms here, so I won't even say trustee, trustor, beneficiary, etc. I'll simply say the name, the trust has to be created for the benefit of all of the borrowers, no more people, no extra people, and no fewer people. So absolutely that can be done. Great question. All right. Next question. How long do I have to use the voucher once selected? 180 days. You get 90 days and they give you an extension you can apply for to get another 90 days on top of that. Are there purchase price limits? The only purchase price limit is the loan limit for the county that you're buying in, and different counties have different loan limits. Every county is no less than $833,000. Some of the high-cost counties, we can go even higher, but that's not a purchase price limit. It's a loan amount limit. Can I combine the Dream for All program with other down payment assistance programs? Theoretically, yes. Practically, almost none. The other programs, unless they're a grant, and there are very few grant programs out there, the money goes away very, very quickly. Unless they're a grant, most down payment assistance programs require you to tie their assistance loan with the Dream for All loan, or with their first mortgage loan, not Dream for All, with their first mortgage loan. And so if it's a package deal, well, you can't, because the Dream for All program is a package deal. You have to get both loans through me from the state, and the state determines the interest rate on the big loan. You can't go out somewhere else and get the big loan from somewhere else. It's a package deal. So I don't know of any down payment assistance programs that you can tie with Dream for All. I'm continuing to look, but all the ones that I come across, the answer is no. All right. That was just a thank you. You're welcome. All right. I'm jumping back and forth with comments. What types of properties qualify? Great question, John. Let me tell you. You can buy single family homes only. They can be condos, they can be townhomes, it can be a manufactured home on land that you own, but only single family. It can have an accessory dwelling unit, but it cannot be a multi-unit 2, 3, 4 or greater unit property. And you cannot count rental income from the ADU. So if there's an accessory dwelling unit, no problem. You can rent it out if you want to. You can put family in there if you want to. We don't care. But for qualification, we cannot count the rental income from the ADU. What should I be doing right now before the March 16th deadline? Gosh, John, I'm so happy you asked that. You should be scanning this QR code. So let me be really clear. There are a few steps that you have to take. The first step is pick a lender and get your pre-approval process started. I am interviewing to be your lender. I'd be honored if you'd trust me to take care of that. We are very busy, but I got a team of 8 people. A lot of them are working today. Some of them are working tomorrow. We're putting in a lot of overtime to make sure that we're taking great care of you through this entire process. So we're going to be your lender. Scan this QR code. It is going to take you to this website, okay? You can look at this. You can go to my blog. You can go to my YouTube channel. You can book a phone call with me. But I'm booked out for most of next week. The week after that, I'm really going to block out my calendar and not take appointments because I've got to focus on getting the vouchers done. So the time that you're going to have to ask me questions is on these live Q&As. I've got another one coming next Wednesday night. If you have more questions, jump onto that one and I'll ask you questions. The book a call is going to go away in a week because I got to focus on getting everybody taken care of. And then the most important button, apply now. You could click the apply now button. It takes you to my application screen. This is where you have to input everything. Your social security number. This is me. I know this guy has a lot darker hair, but it's me. So this is where you got to put in everything. You got to put in your social security number and your birth date, all of the information about where you've lived and where you worked, and then you upload all of your documentation. It's a smart system. Now, it is smart, not perfect. It asks you for bank statements. I don't need bank statements right now. It may not pick up nuances of certain things. And so we may call you back and say, hey, we need to get a little more detail on this, that, or the other. But basically upload everything that the portal is asking you for. My team will reach out and collect the cost for the upfront soft credit check. We only run a soft credit check. That's the only money that you will pay to us ever unless we get you keys to a home. Okay, you'll pay the appraisal fee at the time that you get into contract. Okay, so that is what you should be doing right now. If you are saying, John, I'm ready to start. I'm trying to reach somebody. Nobody's calling me back. First of all, you're not calling my team. We're doing our best to return all our calls. I feel like we're returning them all. And if we're not, I apologize, but it is busy. Okay, but we operators standing by. My team is ready to take great care of you. So right now you need to get yourself the pre-approval letter. Once you have the pre-approval letter, you will get instructions from us to get yourself registered with the Dream for All website, which means you're going to go to CalHFA's website and you're going to go right here to the homepage. You're going to go right here and you're going to go to the Dream for All portal. And on the right side here, you're going to go to their application portal. I have a video I did last Tuesday that's 45 minutes long that walks you through every single question that's going to be asked of you. And I tell you what you should say, what you need to be concerned about, which questions don't matter. I'll go through all of that with you in the video that I did last Tuesday. Check it out. That is what you need to be doing between now and March 16th. Get the pre-approval letter from me, and then get yourself entered in the lottery. We cannot enter you into the lottery yourself. All right, this is my second to last question. We are right up at 2 o'clock. That's perfect. If you have questions, post them now. If not, forever hold your peace or reach out to us. We're happy to help. What's the difference between a soft pull and a hard pull, and which one do I need and when? I need both, but I only need a soft pull now. To get you into the lottery, we do a single credit report, soft credit pull. That way, we're not dinging your credit. We're not making it a hard hit. A hard credit report lowers your credit score a little bit because it counts as you applying for a mortgage. You are not officially applying for the mortgage in the eyes of the banking system. You're getting a pre-approval letter, and we can get you that pre-approval letter with a soft credit. But once you have your voucher and you have a contract accepted for a home, we have to pull a hard credit. We pull all 3 credit bureaus for everyone. For each person, we throw away the best credit score, and we throw away the worst credit score, and we use the middle. Now, we have the middle credit score for this person and the middle credit score for this person. Both of those scores have to be over the minimum of 680 or at least 660 if you're considered low income. And to stretch your buying power the most, we need everybody over 700. The interest rate's the same regardless of your credit score. The fees are the same regardless of your credit score. All right, looks like we have another question. Nope, I just have a thank you. You are very, very welcome. So guys, I'm going to wrap up. If you have another question, feel free. If you just want to say thank you, go for it. First of all, if you have any last questions, post them now. But how to proceed from here. I kind of already covered it, but I want to say it just to be really clear, and also in case anybody's typing away a question, this is your last moment to type a question. How you proceed from here is you need to get your pre-approval letter going now. The time to ask questions is closing, okay? We will be reaching out if we have questions about your qualification. We will set up one-on-one meetings with me and you after March 16th to answer all of your questions, to talk strategy, to talk what-if scenarios, to talk budgeting, to talk about all the things that have to do with the questions that you're not sure what the right move is. We don't have to do that now. And out of respect for everyone else that we're trying to get into the lottery, please allow us to focus on that now. Now, you might say, no, John, I want to take up all your time so nobody else can get in the lottery. Because if fewer people that get into the lottery, the better your chances are. Yeah, that kind of is a true statement. But you would hate it if you were that person. You would hate it if you were the person that I couldn't get to because somebody else was asking a whole bunch of questions that can wait until after the lottery portal closes. So hopefully you understand that. I will always answer your question at any point in time, but the best way to do that is during my live streams every Wednesday night at 7. I added a Saturday today. I might add another Saturday. We will see. But every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., I'm doing a live stream answering questions. That's what I'm here for. So your next step from here is to get your golden tickets, what we call it, your pre-approval letter, so that you can get yourself registered into CalHFA's portal. Both of those steps have to be done before 5 p.m. on March 16th in order for you to have a shot at getting a lottery ticket. Guys, that's all I've got for you today. I really appreciate you joining. I am clearly interviewing for the job of being your lender, no matter if it's for Dream for All or anything else. I'm honored that you trust me and are listening to me. Some of you found me on over time. Some of you found me because you happened to get referred to me through CalHFA's portal. Either way, I just appreciate the opportunity to serve you and your family and look forward to helping make your dreams come true. Everybody have an absolutely wonderful rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.